What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to take you guys through my very own wildcard draft for the upcoming Game Week 8. Now I say my very own, it's very likely that I actually will be wildcarding for the upcoming Game Week 8, so therefore this video can be taken a little bit more seriously. Now are you guys wildcarding Game Week 8? Are you keeping it till Game Week 9? What hits are you kind of taking? If you're not going to be wildcarding this week, let me know in the comments down below what your guys' current plan is. If you are wildcarding, drop your current draft down below before you see my own. Now in this video, I'm going to start off the video talking about some more general talking points, the base fixtures, the teams to target, then I'm going to go straight into the wildcard draft, and then show you the team selection for the upcoming Game Week 8, as well as some variations you guys can also do on this current template. So unfortunately, yes, if you guys are going to be wildcarding Game Week 9, while the majority of managers might not be, for those who are wildcarding, there has been a template that's kind of formed. I'll be showing you guys that template, as well as my own variations that I might actually do. But it's going to be an exciting time. Any kind of time that you guys are using the wildcard chip is an exciting time of this current Premier League season. And please remember, there are 3 wildcards that we'll be getting. One from now to Game Week 16. Then before Game Week 17, we do get unlimited chances as well. And then obviously from Game Week 18 to the end of the season, we get also a fresh new wildcard. But this video is going to focus around the first wildcard. So sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So in this video, I'm going to simply focus on a wildcard draft. I want to just put this out there for you guys that the kind of decision making between Game Week 8 and Game Week 9 is going to come up in a video tomorrow where we'll be kind of doing a wildcard guide. So I just want to remind you guys that in this video, unfortunately, I'm not going to give any explaining, but if you guys do choose to wildcard, you can simply use this draft. But if you want to wait for some more kind of clarity and information, stay tuned for tomorrow's video. But generally, the decision making between Game Week 8 and Game Week 9 and when to wildcard, what I would do personally is kind of make a team, make a wildcard draft for Game Week 8, then go and make a wildcard draft for Game Week 9, see how different they are. If there are a lot of differences, then 100% just keep the wildcard for next week. But if they do look quite similar, you might just want to move that game week 1 week earlier, catch the price rises. Yes, you might not get that international break, but if the drafts are quite similar, why wait? But don't worry, in tomorrow's video, I'll be going through all the talking points. Obviously, there are kind of more than one talking point going into the wildcard decision, so make sure that you have notifications on for that video. Now the first major talking point of this kind of wildcard draft video, as you guys know, I always like going over the fixtures before I go over the draft. I always say the bread and butter of any draft is going to be the fixtures. So I've actually stolen the talking point from my wildcard guide in last week's video. So I'll be going through the best fixtures from Game Week 8 to Game Week 13. As you guys know, I do love kind of a 6-week window, thing that gives us a nice medium-term kind of perspective of the fixtures. And on a wildcard in Game Week 8, you're going to want to look for the future game weeks. Now we'll be going over the top 6 teams. Now I went over to Fantasy Football Fix. I rated the fixtures from an attacking point of view from best to worst, and these are going to be the top 6 teams from that kind of selection. Now there might be some other teams that I've already spoken about. I will address that in the team selection coming up, but if there's a specific team that I missed out on, comment it down below and why you think they are the team to focus on. Now also another disclaimer, none of the top 6 sides are going to be in this kind of talking point, and the simple reason for that is that I've already covered that. I don't want to kind of steal 2 talking points from last week's video for those of you guys who have already seen it. But let's now go on to the best fixtures for the upcoming 6 game weeks, and the first team is going to be Aston Villa. Now you guys can see why those opening 3 games, Southampton at home, Leeds away, Nottingham Forest away, are great fixtures on paper. They only have the Chelsea game week 11 game that's a little bit bad, as game week 12 and 13 also look pretty strong. Now unfortunately, in most people's kind of wildcard drafts, I've not really seen many Aston Villa players. I've seen kind of a Leon Bailey as a 5th midfielder, but no kind of Ollie Watkins, Danny Ings, Coutinho's, those sort of options, and none of their defense as well. Now the reason for that is that unfortunately, the Aston Villa side is pretty hard to kind of predict. Some rotation has been in those front lines. The defense looks pretty set, however, they aren't keeping clean sheets. That might change going to Game Week 8 to 13, so if you guys do want to go for Luca Digne, unfortunately Matty Cash is out with an injury, and therefore you guys can't select him. But quite interesting to see though, the best fixtures on paper here are Aston Villa, but I haven't really seen them in too many people's drafts. The next team are Fulham. I've seen them in loads of people's drafts. Mitrovic, Andreas Pereira seem to be kind of 2 mainstays in the template, and with some nice fixtures coming up, especially Game Week 8, I definitely would favour them. Now the one talking point about Fulham that is quite interesting is going to be the defensive department. Leno in goal could actually be a viable option. There are some other defenders that you guys could also look at, but because the XG conceded has been so bad this season, as expected, I probably wouldn't go for too many of their assets. But the attacking department, whole different story. Although the XG is not that high, Mitrovic is super consistent and Andreas Pereira is super cheap. Bournemouth coming next with the 3rd best rated fixtures from Game Week 8 to 13. Now some of these options, like a Solanke, is a nice cheap forward to kind of look at. There are some other midfielders and defenders, but generally I haven't really seen too many Bournemouth options that you guys can actually go for. So from an attacking point of view, I probably would favour this side, as from a defensive point of view, can't really trust them. Newly promoted side, the defence isn't that great, but if you guys want to go for a cheap forward, maybe look at Solanke. Newcastle, on the other hand, a kind of established side, at least from last season to this season, playing a great brand of football. Clean sheets are on the cards, goals are on the cards, and the fixtures also look pretty strong. Now that Bournemouth in Game Week 8 fixture is definitely one to target. I think an Isaac, or maybe even going for someone like a Gucci St. Maxim, if he is back from injury, could be a nice strategy to go for. Defensively, Pope and Trippier have been in basically everyone's wildcard drafts for Game Week 8, and therefore I'd also recommend them. Fixtures look strong, Newcastle looks strong, what more can you kind of ask for? Next up is going to be Leicester, and unfortunately on a Game Week 8 wildcard, I would only recommend kind of benching these assets because Game Week 8 against Spurs, I don't really think there's going to be too many kind of good talking points from that game. However, after that, Nottingham Forest at home and then Bournemouth away, what better two fixtures can you guys ask for? And definitely a Maddison, a Harvey Barnes, maybe even a Jamie Vardy if he's going to be starting both games, should be on your radar. After that, Crystal Palace in Game Week 11 isn't that great, but Game Week 12 and 13 still look pretty respectable. Now the final team to go over is going to be West Ham, and the reason I'm actually happy that West Ham are on this kind of a radar of best fixtures is a lot of people have been asking me about Jarrod Bowen. Now yes, Bowen hasn't had the best start to the season. Last season was an absolute tank, got us so many FPL points at a cheap price point, but unfortunately this season West Ham and Jarrod Bowen haven't been up to scratch. Now is that due to kind of form or bad fixtures? Who kind of knows? But what I do know is that West Ham have some great fixtures coming up, and therefore I'm willing to bet on Jarrod Bowen. Defensively as well, West Ham provides some nice cheap entries, so if you guys want to go for them, these fixtures look quite strong from an attacking and a defensive point of view. So overall, to kind of wrap up the best fixtures, we've gone over them quite quickly, so just pause the screen if you guys want to go a little bit more in depth. But as I mentioned, really spoken about this in last week's video, but these are going to be the top 6 teams I would focus on that Game Week 8 wildcard. Comment down below if I've missed any teams here. I know Crystal Palace look pretty strong, but on the fantasy football fixed ratings, unfortunately, they don't come in the top 6. But now's the time that you guys have all been waiting for, the actual wildcard draft. I'm going to be going over the actual price points first, then the team selection coming up next, just to give you guys some context about both scenarios. So we're going to start off like we always do on any kind of wildcard draft or any draft in general. We're going to be going over the goalkeepers first, and to be honest, the goalkeepers in a Game Week 8 wildcard kind of pick themselves. The first one, Danny Ward, simple reason for that, 4.0 playing goalkeeper. Yes, the Leicester defense is absolutely tragic, but hopefully you won't have to start him in too many game weeks. But I do think the number one goalkeeper to go for on the stats, on the fixtures, is going to be Nick Pope from Newcastle. You can currently get him at 5.1 million, but probably will rise before that Game Week 8 deadline. So therefore, if you want to get him in, I would bring him in quite quickly. Has some of the best goalkeeper stats in the Prem at the current moment, some of the best FPL goalkeeper stats. I'm talking about kind of save points and bonus points. And with some nice fixtures coming up and the Newcastle defense looking pretty strong, I definitely go for him at that more expensive price point. Now there are some other assets to go for. I really do like Guaita from Game Week 9 onwards. However, as I mentioned, from Game Week 9 onwards, you're going to have to play Danny Ward in Game Week 8 then. So Nick Pope is a no-brainer for me, but there are some other assets that you guys can also look at. But generally the template is going for the Newcastle goalkeeper between the sticks. We're now going to move on to the defensive department. I'm going to start off with a pretty secure defense, if not the best defense in the Prem at the moment. It's going to be Cancelo from Man City. Now there has been some debate about Cancelo. Potentially his attacking threat has dropped this season compared to prior seasons, but I do still trust him, and I trust that Man City defense to give me those clean sheets. Now you guys will notice that Cancelo is my most expensive defender to actually go for, so I won't be going for Trent Alexander-Arnold as I don't really like those Liverpool fixtures coming up. So Cancelo comes into my kind of wildcard draft at a good price point, but I do think he needs to improve his attacking returns to be good value for money. The nice thing about that Man City defense though is if you don't like Cancelo or you need some value, you can downgrade him, probably to go for someone like a Diaz, but Laporte is back in training, so just be careful about that move. Now next defender to go for doesn't have a fixture in Game Week 8, but I don't really care. It's going to be Reece James at 6.0 million. Now Reece James comes in here as a defender that I'm hoping will start at right wing back, but who kind of knows what Graham Potter's going to do with that formation. So right back, right wing back, let's hope that James does start there, but with the new signing of Fofana, I don't really think we'll see him at right centre back too often. Now in terms of Reece James, you guys know about his attacking threat. Hopefully under Graham Potter they rack up some more clean sheets, but some nice figures coming up for Chelsea make them one of the best top 6 sides to go for. So obviously you guys will have to bench him for Game Week 8, but that's no problem when you guys do see my team selection coming up. Now the next defender to go for, similar to Nick Pope, is going to be a no-brainer here. Kieran Trippier from Newcastle at 5.3 million, actually rose in price last night, so make sure that you guys do update your price points. So Trippier for me is a no-brainer. Like Nick Pope, has great fixtures. Defensively, Newcastle look pretty strong, but the chance creation of Kieran Trippier is off the charts. He's on all set pieces and on direct free kicks, and surely he's going to score 1 or 2 of them from now till Game Week 16. So kind of the first 3 defenders are my mainstays here. I just think that these 3 have great points potential over these upcoming game weeks, and you guys know how I love a fullback. Now the last two defenders to go for might be a little bit of a surprise here, but we spoke about West Ham's good form. It's going to be Sofal and then also Emerson. So Emerson is a no-brainer for me because he's 4.0 million. Yes, he might be rotated. Please be careful. Cresswell's back in training and therefore these two should rotate, but Emerson still is a nice punt at 4.0 million. Now the reason I've actually gone for Sofal, and you guys will see in the team selection, is I needed a defender for Game Week 8 only. Reece James doesn't have a fixture, I need my 3 at the back, and therefore if Emerson doesn't play, I still wanted some coverage in that defense department. So yes, you guys could go for another option, you could go for someone like a Fofana from Chelsea, but then you have to be confident that Emerson does start. So I just went kind of boring, I went for a 4.4 defender that will probably play against Everton away, and that's going to be Sofal from West Ham. But you guys can kind of go for anyone as long as they do play in Game Week 8. So overall, as you guys can see in the defensive department, no Liverpool coverage here, no Trent, Robbo's currently out injured, so no Tsimikas or Robbo, no Van Dijk. I simply don't like the Liverpool fixtures coming up, and with that Game Week 8 blank, I don't think they're worth the price point to have them play against Man City and Arsenal coming up. But now going on to midfield department, we're going to start off with yet another Man City option. Kevin De Bruyne comes in quite expensive, but I do think he could be worth it over these next 3 game weeks. Man City face Wolves this week, then they face United at home and Southampton at home, and if KDB does start all 3 of those games, I do favour him to outperform someone like a Salah. But if you guys do want to go for a human Son, can understand that reasoning, but currently I'm going to go for the safe option, and that's going to be KDB. I just feel like Man City right now are playing a great brand of football as they always do, and with Haaland in that forward line, KDB's assisting threat is only going to get greater. So let's just hope that Man City keep up the form, but more importantly, that Kevin De Bruyne starts all of these Premier League fixtures. Now the next 2 assets, I've actually gone for 2 Arsenal midfielders, and I will explain why, but I've kind of gone for some more tempered options as I do believe that this midfielder start at this 8.0 price tag will rotate quite frequently. So Saka and Martinelli will come in for Brentford away. Yes, not the best fixture in the world, but Brentford have been conceding quite a few goals in these previous couple game weeks, and with Arsenal's XG, I do favour them from an attacking point of view. So Saka at 7.8, and then also Martinelli. Martinelli 100% will be in most of my wildcard drafts, but there might be some variation around Saka that we'll discuss in the future team selections. Now you guys don't have to worry about this Arsenal vs Brentford game, it's actually been moved forward in time so that this game does go ahead, so if you guys had some concerns about that, don't really worry too much. Now the nice thing about going for the 2 Arsenal midfielders is I will give you guys a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I haven't gone for Gabriel Jesus in that forward line, and with his high ownership I might be slightly concerned about that, so therefore Saka and Martinelli can hopefully cover him. But as I mentioned, this will be kind of for only 1 game week, it will be for the Brentford away game, but I could always kind of go without Saka and go for another option. A player that's been in most people's kind of Game Week 8 wildcard drafts is going to be Jarrod Bowen from West Ham. As mentioned early on, yes, I understand the form is not there at the current moment, but what's FPL about? It's about predicting when the form is going to change, and with these nice fixtures coming up for West Ham, I'm predicting Jarrod Bowen to do quite well. So yes, 8.1 million is quite expensive, but I do still trust them, and I just hope that West Ham can improve, and hopefully Jarrod Bowen gets a rest in those European football matches. So just also remember that West Ham will be playing on Thursday, so just make sure that Jarrod Bowen comes out injury free if you guys do want to go from on your wildcard. Now the final midfielder to go for, kind of already mentioned him in my best fixtures, it's going to be Andreas Pereira from Fulham. So 4.5 million, I think currently 4.6 million if you guys don't have him, but super cheap price point, best kind of option at that price range. Yes, we do have Leon Bailey, but I still am concerned about his playing time. So kind of a reliable option with great fixtures and a great price point, that's going to be Andreas Pereira, and that's why I've gone for him. So overall, like the defense, the midfield department has no Liverpool coverage, no Luis Diaz here, no Mo Salah, but you guys could also leave me enough money in the bank to upgrade KDB to Salah if you want to. Now the final department to go over is probably the most template kind of section in our wildcard draft. It's going to be the forward line, and we're going to start off with Erling Haaland. Now Haaland currently is the most essential option to own in the FPL game, so if you guys are going to be using a wildcard in Game Week 8, I wouldn't use it to take him out, I'd definitely use it to keep him or bring him in. Now Erling Haaland probably will be a perma captain from now to that Game Week 16 wildcard, just because he's been so consistent and Man City looks so strong. Now yes, you might have some rotation concerns, but right now, even if he gets 20 to 30 minutes, I still think you can get 1 or 2 goals. So he's going nowhere in our team, but now let's go on to our next 2 forwards. Now the last 2 forwards, there's been kind of a debate about who to go for. Currently there's 3 options on my radar. It's going to be Isaac, Mitrovic and Tony. So the option that I've gone for to start off with is going to be Isaac from Newcastle because of that Bournemouth at home game in Game Week 8. Now yes, Callum Wilson might come back, but I don't really know what's going to happen then. I don't think he's going to bench Isaac. Isaac might shift to the left or the right, or they might just play 2 up front. But I do think as of Callum Wilson's injury, we don't really have an update on that, but we might get it from Eddie Howe come Thursday or Friday. But if Callum Wilson will be out, Isaac will definitely be in my Game Week 8 wildcard. I just think those fixtures look quite strong, Newcastle look pretty good, and that's a perfect combination. Now talking about kind of perfect combinations, what more do you want with a mid-price option that's nailed to play 90 minutes and is on penalties? Now there might be 2 options that kind of fulfill that bracket. It's going to be Tony or Mitrovic, but I've actually gone for Mitrovic. So yes, I'll be going without Tony, but I do think that Arsenal at home game isn't that great. Yes, he does play Bournemouth the next week, but I think that Mitrovic and Isaac will be better over the next 2. So Mitrovic comes in with that lovely Nottingham Forest away game where I do expect him to do quite well. It's kind of a newly promoted battle, but if Mitrovic can score against the better sides like a Liverpool, he can definitely score against Nottingham Forest. Now, a nice reliable option, as I mentioned, basically nailed, is a main talisman for Fulham, and with his nice fixtures coming up, he definitely is going to be my wildcard. So overall, guys, as you guys can see, this is going to be my wildcard kind of template for Game Week 8. Yes, you guys can chop and change, add your own flavor however you want to, but I do think this is the best template to kind of start off with, and then make one or two changes. Now, what are those changes? Well, I'll discuss some of them in the upcoming talking points when I do cover the team selection. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this wildcard draft. Is this actually reflective of your current draft, or do you have anything different? Drop it in the comments down below. Now, the last thing to talk about is going to be the kind of the formation, but as you guys can see, I think I'm leaning towards a 3-4-3. We do have some rotation pieces like Sufal at 4.4 million. Andreas Pereira could come in if we need him, but currently I think a 3-4-3 is a formation to kind of look at. So kind of talking about that 3-4-3 formation, let's go over the Game Week 8 team selection because we've spoken about the price points and the overall structure. Let's get on to the actual fixtures. Now what I'll be doing is the first team, I'll be covering the exact team that I've just shown you, but the next talking points, I'll be covering some variations that you guys can also make. Now the important thing to note is bottom right hand side, 0.2 left in the bank, so you guys should be able to afford this if you have slightly less money than me, but if you guys do have more money, you can simply make an upgrade in another department. We're going to start off with our bench in Game Week 8, and yes, we do have Andreas Pereira here, and that might be a little bit of a concern, but currently I do favour my starting 11. So Danny Ward's a no-brainer against Spurs away. Andreas Pereira, yes, it is a great fixture, but I don't really know if I trust him to get that many points. Reece James, blank game week, so perfectly fine benching him. Then finally Emerson against Everton. Now if Emerson or Sufal do start, that could be a debate to kind of go for, but currently I think that Emerson might be rotated, and that's why he's going to be on my bench. Heading on to our goalkeeper department, Nick Pope, no-brainer there, Bournemouth at home, great fixture, just hoping for a clean sheet and a couple save points, which might be quite likely. Going on to the defensive department, Cancelo against Wolves away, great fixture on paper, Wolves struggle from an attacking point of view, Man City don't have any problems going forward, and therefore a clean sheet and maybe even an attacking return could be on the cards. Trippier though, Bournemouth at home, great fixture, attacking one I'm hoping for Newcastle, so hopefully an attacking return from Trippier, and also a clean sheet similar to Cancelo. Sufal though against Everton away, tough game on paper, not expecting too much here, and that's why if Emerson is going to start, I could maybe go for him, and then go for another option on my bench. Going on to midfield department, we have De Bruyne against Wolves away. Now tough fixture, Wolves sometimes defend quite well against Man City, but De Bruyne has the knack of actually scoring against them, so I do have some hope here. We then have Saka and Martinelli against Brentford away. Great fixture. I think that Brentford haven't been defending as well as I was expecting them to, and also have had a great attacking rate this Premier League season. So Saka, Martinelli, if Saka's on penalties, an added bonus there, and hopefully they do get one against Brentford. And then finally, Bowen against Everton away. This is going to be quite a cagey game, but if West Ham do score, Bowen gets a goal, gets an assist, I'll be quite happy because this is more of a kind of punt pick. And then finally, our forward line picks itself. Haaland against Wolves, who probably will be our captain. Mitrovic against Nottingham Forest, great fixture. Isaac against Bournemouth, even better fixture. So on paper, our front three looks absolutely great. So this is kind of the template at the current moment for the wildcard draft, but there are a couple variations, and I'll be going through those right now. But now that you guys have seen the fixtures, let me know if you have any kind of changes that you guys would make. As I mentioned, this is the current template, but you guys can change what you want to. So before we get on to the variations, I want to talk you guys through some of the best fixtures yet again, because I want to take note of some specific teams. The first team to take note of is going to be Leicester. We've already spoken about them. Game week 8 against Spurs away. Bad fixture on paper. Yes, they still might score, but I'm actually confident of starting those attackers, as Spurs are usually quite a good defensive side. But look at Game Week 9, Nottingham Forest at home and then Bournemouth away, great two fixtures on paper. So therefore, on my kind of Game Week 8 wildcard or on my Game Week 9 free transfer, I want to make moves for Leicester attacker. Now the first move I want to talk about is actually a variation to target a Game Week 8 fixture, and that's going to be that Spurs vs Leicester game. Now you guys will note, I don't know Heung-min Son, I don't know Harry Kane, but there could be a variation that I go for, and that would include removing Saka. Now unfortunately I would need an extra 0.1 in the bank, and therefore I've done the move of Danny Ward to Iverson to give me that extra bank. Now the move I'm talking about is going to be Saka to Kulusevski. I just believe if we do get news that Kulusevski starts that Leicester game, we have been getting some very reliable kind of predictions on the Spurs lineup, and that's why if Kulusevski's predicted a start, I would actually be interested to take a punt on him. And the reason I would be interested is this will be a 1 week punt. I would go for Kulusevski this week, then go for Maddison next week. As mentioned previously, Game Week 9 and 10 are great for Leicester. So as a 1 week punt, I really do like this, still keeping Kevin De Bruyne. I don't have to kind of get in Kane or Son, and I do believe Kulusevski is a great attacking outlet for that side. So this would be one of the variations that I do go for. I don't really mind the Iverson move. I won't start Danny Ward most game weeks anyways, so Iverson instead of him isn't too big of a deal. But now let's do another variation, still sticking to that Spurs vs Leicester game, and that could be going for a defender instead of an attacker. So let's just say that I could actually take out Reece James and also Sufal. I could go for some variation there, and that's going to be going for Perisic. So as you guys can see, Sufo will now be on our bench, so therefore I could go for another option. I'm thinking about maybe a Fofana at that 4.4 price tag. Was going to bench Reece James anyway, so now I can bench Fofana instead, and now I've got a great defensive option. Now, like Kulusevski, this will also depend on some early team news. Spurs are playing the early Champions League game tonight, so it could be quite a good turnaround for Perisic to start tonight and also then on Sunday or Saturday. So if we do get early team news, and I do prefer Perisic over someone like Kulusevski, I could also go for this variation. So the transfer next week will therefore be either kind of taking Maddison in, or I could also go for Reece James from Perisic, but I actually prefer the previous move because I won Reece James in game week 9, but also Maddison. Now the last variation I want to go for is actually going to be quite a popular selection. I've seen this in quite a lot of content creators drafts and actual drafts over on FPL Twitter, and it's almost kind of making the space for Maddison. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take out Saka, but also I'm going to start Andreas Pereira, and therefore I could actually bench Maddison. So as you guys can see, Maddison on the bench against Spurs. Now yes, it might actually come back to bite me. Will Andreas Pereira actually outperform Maddison? On paper, it does look like it, because the fixture for Maddison is pretty bad. So I really have no problem starting Andreas Pereira against Nottingham Forest away instead of him, and therefore next week in game week 9, we do have Maddison already in our lineup. So this kind of comes down to points and also transfers. This is a move that saves us a transfer in game week 9, and therefore we can make a switch elsewhere. But if you do think that Kulusevski or someone like a Perisic scores more points, or even a Saka scores more points, starting Andreas Pereira could not be the optimal play. But these are kind of 3 variations that I've taken you guys through, but you guys can obviously add whatever you want to, kind of vary it to your heart's desire. If you want to take out De Bruyne, go for Son, maybe even bring in a Kane, that's 100% fine. But currently this is going to be a reflection on the template, but also variations to the template that would make it my own flavor. So let me know what you guys think down below, and also comment your wildcard drafts in the comments down below as well. But this is basically up for the video, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you did, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Stay tuned for that ultimate guide / wildcard guide coming up tomorrow, as well as the final team selection coming up on Thursday, probably. But I'm going to sign off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.